Okay, getting down to almost the last W here, which is what? What should you build? When you're in a startup, you're in a quest, and you want to make sure that your quest is sufficiently epic. There's nothing sadder than seeing a talented, young, energetic entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur, and you sort of get their idea, hey, what do you want to work on? And they tell you the idea, and you're like, oh, that's lame. Like, oh, this is insufficiently epic. Because you're going to spend your life on it. Like, whether you think you are or not, whether it's your entire life or 5 years, or 5 years is all you have left. It's going to be really hard. It's a long time. Like, why would you do it on something that's insufficiently epic? Why would you work on something that's, optimizing how many people click on a certain type of annoying ad or something like that? Like, yeah, maybe you can make money on it, maybe you can't, but it's not worth your life. Don't work on it if it's not worth your life. Make something sufficiently epic. At Evernote, for example, our goal is to make the whole world smarter. We want to make the whole world a little bit smarter, one person at a time. Why do we want to make the world smarter? Because the world is too stupid. And a stupid world leads to poor outcomes for the people in it. We want to make the world a little bit smarter. That is a sufficiently epic quest. But how do you do that? Well, there's a myth here. So there's a good news here. The myth is you don't need a big idea. A lot of people think that the way that great startups are started is someone has this stroke of lightning, this brilliant genius idea. Like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And they go do it. This is a completely original thing that never existed before. And the reality is that almost never happens. Virtually never. Almost all successful companies, even successful tech companies, did not start with a totally original big idea. They did something that already existed before. So, looking at the world, beholding the world, and seeing what's missing, like seeing this is the world, and here's an important thing that should be here and isn't, that requires an act of imagination, an act of creativity that's almost godlike, and that's completely beyond me, and completely beyond, I would say, most of you, statistically all of you, but you never know. Really, really, really tough. But the good news is that almost never leads to a successful company anyway. So there's another way to think about how do you have your idea, which is this. If you want to figure out what should I do in my startup, do this. Spend 2 weeks. Spend 2 weeks carefully observing your own life. Be very mindful for 2 weeks of everything you do. You wake up in the morning, how you go to the bathroom, what you do afterwards. Just be really mindful of everything you do for 2 weeks. Just sort of force yourself to look at yourself in the third person and observe. And then do the same thing for other people that you know for a couple of weeks. And find something that you do all the time and that people that you know do all the time that isn't great. Find something that you do all the time already that you don't love doing. And then figure out a way to make it great. Right? Figure out a way to make something small much better. That's actually most of the time the genesis of companies. You don't need to find something totally original. You need to find something that's already very common, so people already know how to do it. They're already used to it. They already understand the value of it. They just don't like doing it. And you fix it. You make it better. And when you start thinking of the world this way, dozens of things a day will spring to mind. Like you will just every day as you're walking around, you will find like a dozen things where you're like, yep, you know what? I do this all the time. Kind of sucks. Doesn't mean that you're going to run out and build the first one as a company. It needs to be sufficiently epic and all that stuff. But it's an easier and much saner way to figure out what you want to build. Okay, finally, wow. How do you actually do this? That's a long topic. So I'm going to give a couple of very short points, a couple of very short tips. First thing in how is what we ask ourselves at Evernote, which is how do we build a 100-year startup? And our goal at Evernote from the beginning has been build a 100-year startup. We want to build a company that's around in 100 years and a company that's still a startup in 100 years. By startup, I don't mean small and constantly running out of money. I mean huge and flush with cash. No, I mean huge because I want to have resources. But I mean innovative. I mean a company that still makes products that people are in love with, that still has creative ideas. And for us, how do we build a 100-year company? The main thing is this. So think about all of these different threads in your business. These are all of the interests. You have interests from like, what do your founders want? What do your employees want? What do customers want? What do investors want? And these are all tangled up, and we want to untangle them. We want to align them. We want to make them run in parallel. So if you look at kind of where we think we are right now, it's kind of right at that point where they're starting to come together. We want to, every decision we make is about aligning interests, because I think fundamental conflicts of interest is what kills most companies. I'll give you, there's many examples of this. I'll give you one quick one. This is why our revenue model at Evernote is direct. So we don't show ads. We're not big data. We don't data mine anything you put in. We don't drive affiliate traffic. We could, and we could make money doing this because we have enough data now where we can actually make decent money. But we don't. And we specifically publish our 3 laws of data that says we will never do this. Our money only comes from you as a user when we give you an experience that you feel like paying for, where you're like, yep, this is good enough. Hurry up and take my money. The reason we do that, even though it costs us short-term revenue, is because it aligns the interest of what we want to build with the customer, with what the customers want to use. If we were, for example, showing ads, we would have a fundamental conflict of interest. We would have to build a product that was good enough to get you to use it and to trust it, but we would also have to figure out a way to make that valuable when we're reselling your data or showing your targeted ads or something like that. And it's pretty hard to do one thing well, even harder to do 2 things well, and it sets up this conflict. Where we might be able to get away from it for a while, but it's unlikely that we could stretch this out for 100 years. So for us, alignment is the most important thing. And if you're trying to build a sustainable company, a robust company, I think alignment is the most important thing. And if you're not trying to build a sustainable company and a robust company, then again, I don't know why you're bothering, because it's just as much work to build something you're going to sell in 3 years than it is to build something that you're going to keep for the rest of your life. Measured over the life of the company, the culture is the product. This is the second most important thing of the how. So it's all about culture. The culture, in many ways, is more important than the product, measured over the lifetime of the company. Because the product is today's product. The culture is the next 100 products. Right? When you look at any product, and you can learn to do this pretty well. In fact, some of you are probably already good at it. When you look at a product, anything, you kind of squint at it the right way, and you like hold it up to the light, you can see in it a direct reflection of the company that made it. You can see the office layout reflected in the company. You can see whether they have cubes. You can see how happy people are. There's a reflection. There's a stamp of the company and the culture that makes a product visible on every single product, and you cannot hide it. No product designer can like buff that away. You're gonna have a reflection of your company on the products you make, and the only way to deal with it is to have that be a reflection of it. But the most important one is to think about culture. So what we try to do is we try to have a culture of design. We try to have a culture that says designing the experience is the most important thing in the universe. And to have a culture that embraces that, we need to design that culture. Like that doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen for free. We have to think about designing the culture in exactly the same ways we think about designing the product by exactly the same people. And this is reflected in many ways, many things that we try to do. You know, how we pick our lunch program, how we pick benefits. One quick example is we moved into about a year ago. Moved into this really sweet new building, right off of 101 in Redwood City. Some of you probably driven by it and seen the Evernote sign. And I think I did. I think you and I talked about this. So originally, we moved into this building, and I'm like, oh man, this is a great location for a sign because it's totally visible from either direction on 101. It's right off 101. We've got to put up a sign. But like, I'm not going to go to a sign company and have them make a sign. I'm not like Joann's Fabrics or something. I never know. I want it to look great. And we have great designers. And you know, this isn't my slides. This is something they can actually get behind. So we went to a chief designer and said, hey, can you make some building sign? He was like, yeah, totally. That's going to be awesome. And he made the sign, and it was beautiful. It was great. It was fantastic. It was like the best sign we've ever seen. Turns out that you know, the guys who make our app icons and kind of our fonts, they don't really know much about building signs. And so the sign that we designed, we actually had it made, and it turned out it was like 8 times heavier than that building could support. You didn't think about it. And so it took 9 months. It took 9 months longer than supposed to get that building sign up, because we needed to like structurally reinforce the building with like more iron or steel or something, and that required, you know, additional building permits from the city. We had to explain why we're hanging this much weight off the side of the building. 9 months it took to get it. Was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth it. It's an awesome sign. Drive by it right now. But when the sign was finally going up, I was so excited that I tweeted. Like, I took a picture of it, I tweeted, I'm like, oh, Evernote, we're finally getting our big sign. And, most people tweeted back, like, hey, congratulations, that's great, looks great. But of course, there's always people, there's always the haters. And so one guy tweets back, can't believe, Evernote, you guys are wasting your time on that sign rather than fixing bugs in the Mac product. And my first reaction was I was going to tweet back. And I was going to be like, no, it's not exactly the same people. But I'm like, oh, you know what? It is. I'm like, you got us. This is totally true. It totally is the same people that could have been working on the Mac product, and instead I had them work on the side. Like, I didn't say anything. I just shut up. Like, I know when the critics are right, and they were right in this case. I still think it was worth it. So we try to explicitly have the design of the culture as part of it. And part of our culture at Evernote is you get to design everything. Like, we make Evernote business socks as a promotional giveaway for Evernote Business. We made Evernote business socks because conditions were perfect. And we designed those socks. And they're great. They're like the best socks you'll ever get if you can ever manage to still get them.